How you doing?
Good. Well,
Good.
I want to give a shout out before we start.
Okay.
Segovia Coffee, best coffee in downtown Brampton. So if you're in downtown Brampton, try them out. They've got a new location. They took over where the old Starbucks was at Four Corners.
Well, when did they open?
So
Did they
they've been
open?
open for since 2018, but their new location they opened maybe 3 weeks ago.
Oh, interesting. I'll get one of my writers on that. So awesome. Let's get to it. A lot of questions. Are you happy to see the kids go back to school on Monday?
Well, Clete, as you know, I advocated to have kids back in school. I felt it's critical that children are in-person learning with their peers. There's a huge toll on their mental health and a loss for learning. Throughout this pandemic, I've said we need to follow the science and the data. And one of the reasons I spoke up about kids being in school is I heard our medical officer of health, who I've got a great level of admiration for, Dr. Lawrence Lowe, saying that kids need to be in school. The pediatric associations were saying that kids need to be in school. And so when our physicians are speaking so clearly and the government was taking a different path, I felt it incumbent upon myself to lobby that the provincial government listen to our physicians. And the Big City Mayor's Caucus passed a resolution that I put forward along with the Mayor of Kingston, making that request. And so I was very pleased that the government of Ontario made that announcement that the kids will be back. And it comes down to this. We have lost more school days in Ontario than any other jurisdiction in North America. And if other provinces can find ways to have kids safely in school, there's no reason we can't do the same in Ontario.
The Elementary Teachers Association said there's not enough being done to protect the students for COVID. What are your thoughts on that?
So I'm not a physician. That union is not offering medical advice. Our medical officer of health, Dr. Lawrence Lowe, our pediatric association, so the top pediatric children's doctors in Ontario have all taken the same position and signed a joint letter that the negative consequences for kids being outside of school are greater than the risks for them being in school. And so they talk about the risks out there in the general society compared to the risks in the school. And our physicians felt it was safer in the classroom. Don't forget, if kids aren't in school, they're going to be in daycares, they're going to be in malls. There's other risks. And so I trust our physicians, and as I've said from the beginning of this pandemic, we need to follow the science and the data. And I know sometimes there is lobbying that occurs to take a different path, but I've tried to be consistent throughout this pandemic, and my advocacy has always been and will be in line with our physicians.
That coffee shop that you mentioned this morning probably asked you, do you think January 26th will be open without any delays? And you probably get that question all the time. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think restaurants and gyms will open on January 26th?
I want them to be open. Ultimately, this will be the Premier's decision, but I'd like to see them open. As you know, I've been vocal on this. I find that lockdowns are short-term solutions, and we've had 2 years to talk about fixing some of the structural challenges in our system. And I just find locking down society is the lazy approach. And, I'd love to see the Prime Minister and the Premier, have a national conversation saying how we're going to build our healthcare capacity, not just beds. We know that we're short beds in Canada compared to other countries. We went into this pandemic with 90% of our beds in use when other countries were at the 60% figure. But on staffing, they're starting to make some movement. One thing that I got to give the provincial government credit on is this week they announced that they're now going to give accreditation to internationally trained nurses. We had a nursing shortage, and they weren't allowing people with the God-given talent and training who want to help in our hospitals to help. It made me want to pull my hair out. As you know, Brampton Council did a lot of advocacy on this front in March of 2020. In March of 2020, we sent letters to the provincial government and had a press conference on behalf of our international trained physicians and nurses, pleading to let the government let them help. So, they are addressing some of this, but let's fix the structural challenges in the system rather than resorting to the short-term lazy approach, which is lockdowns.
How's ICU capacity at Brampton right now?
So, our capacity remains stable. We have capacity where our challenges are with staffing. So in terms of ICU capacity, Dr. Naveed Mohammed explained to me that, we've got some emergency valves. And so if you add in the critical care capacity that exists in the hospital with the ICU, he can get to about 45 beds. Right now, 12 are in use. Okay. The challenge is we have a huge amount of staff that are off right now because of Omicron. And I'm hopeful that the assistance of internationally trained nurses will help us. I do think this is a temporary pressure on the system right now. There are already some indications that we're going to be reaching the peak. And so just like we've seen in the UK or South Africa with Omicron, you see a rapid rise, but also a rapid decline.
Okay. William Osler is closed for urgent care until February 1. Any concerns about this closure?
So it's been closed for most of the pandemic. As you know, they only reopened a few weeks ago. The urgent care clinic, as you know, was a day clinic at the site of the old Peel Memorial, but it really speaks to the fact that when you have a satellite urgent care clinic far away from the hospital, it's not a real urgent care clinic. It's a day clinic, and it's why we need a new hospital. It's why I've been pushing for that second hospital in Brampton. I'm glad the province has tendered it. I'm glad that we're going to get this $1 billion investment in healthcare in Brampton. But let me be very clear. When they shut down Peel Memorial, that's when they should have built the new hospital. This is 2022. They should have issued that tender in 2006. And so when we hear these struggles, years later, it was so predictable. So I want to see those construction trucks there this year. And I told that to the Premier. I've told that to our local MPPs. I want to see the construction truck with shovels in the ground building the new hospital this year.
Any new vaccine centers opening up in Brampton in the coming week?
So the real focus right now by public health is on the younger cohort. Their existing mass vaccination centers are meeting the current demand in terms of adults getting vaccinated, but where we have work to go is within the 5 to 11 cohort. And so there's going to be 26 clinics throughout Peel region in schools and multiple days. And what's really exciting about this is in Toronto, where they are very successful in getting the 5 to 11 cohort vaccinated, it was at schools. And so there's a lot of shift workers who don't have time to take their kids in to get vaccinated, but want to get their kids vaccinated. And so the way it works in Peel is there'll be a parental consent form. So no one's going to get vaccinated without their parents consenting. The parents sign the form, they go to school, they get vaccinated there. And what we found is in the lower socioeconomic neighborhoods that have much lower vaccination rates, this really drives vaccination rates up and helps with additional protection. And they do this while kids are in school. Another advantage of having kids in school is that it gives us opportunities to drive those vaccination rates up. So I'm very pleased that Dr. Lowe has, in collaboration with the school boards, launched this very aggressive vaccination campaign.
Do you know when that's starting, Mayor Brown?
It started in December, but then schools were shut down, so it sort of had a pause. Now that schools are going back, it's going to really ramp up.
Okay. We've got this question. What's the latest on the Brampton University? How much has been spent on this project?
So Brampton has been spending funds pushing for additional post-secondary education opportunities since before my time, since 2014 under the previous mayor, Linda Jeffrey, when there was a blue ribbon panel. I don't think it's new that we feel that we deserve to have additional post-secondary education opportunities in Brampton. We're the only big city in Canada that doesn't have our own university. We've been lobbying for more opportunities. We've had some success. Obviously, the province announced that they're going to be building a med school in Brampton, the first new one in the GTA in 100 years. So that's really exciting. But I'm not giving up there. I'm going to take the med school. I'm happy with the med school, but I want a Brampton U as well. And so we're going to continue lobbying for that, because I believe a young person in Brampton deserves the same academic opportunities as one that grows up in Kingston, where there's Queens, or Kitchener-Waterloo, where they have multiple universities, or Toronto, where there's multiple universities. I want to make sure those opportunities exist for our young people in Brampton.
Have you talked to the province lately about the university?
Repeatedly. I'm very good at pestering them on this topic.
Okay.
And, just like I did on the hospital, I'm not going to give up pestering them until we get our university.
Okay, awesome. The city recently bought 5 acres of land for $24 million at Orangeville for a railway development. What are your plans with this piece of land? So
there's some historic land there that was used for rail purposes, and the goal is to create some additional active transportation amenities. And once you have space and you lose it, you never get it back. And so we're looking at ways to protect that corridor in partnership with Orangeville. Okay.
This was all over the news. Brampton Transit, when will it go back to normal as far as the cancellations and alternative routes?
So I'm hopeful as soon as possible. I speak to our transit commissioner about this regularly. I don't like it when there's one route canceled. As you know, we've seen route cancellations and staffing shortages in transit across the province. It's not unique to Brampton Transit, whether it's the GO trains, whether it's Metrolinx. We're seeing acute staffing shortages. We're seeing this across the public sector. I have staffing shortages with firefighters, police officers, and of course the hospital. But it's been tough in transit. We've had a Omicron hit transit pretty hard. And this is a reminder that they're on the front lines of the pandemic. And throughout this pandemic, I've said that our transit operators are unsung pandemic heroes, because they're in close vicinity with the spread of the virus. Remember when we saw the Amazon plant closure, the first to raise the whistle, blow the whistle on the danger of that route was our transit operators. And this most recent Omicron wave has hit us hard. We've had a lot of transit operators fall sick with Omicron, and we're hopeful that we're going to get back on our feet quickly.
I think same with the garbage collection service is also being put on hold in Brampton and in Peel in general. Do you anticipate this to, services?
I think that's just the exemption. It's not like your garbage isn't going to be picked up. It just in terms of the amount that you can put out on the curb. There was exemptions before, but garbage will still be picked up.
Okay. And do you anticipate any other areas in the city to be hit by staffing shortages in the city of Brampton?
We've been able to do our best to hold the fort on city services despite challenges. But because of Omicron, we're seeing and the public health advice that if you have any symptoms, you don't go into work. We are challenged on staffing levels. There's no other service right now that appears to be on the brink of being challenged. We had an issue 2 weeks ago with our paramedics where we were pretty low, but we made some adjustments to help them with their staffing levels. But we're keeping an eye on all of this.
Awesome. And let's end with a fun topic here, the backyard hockey rink contest that you guys have going. It's gotten a lot of play, a lot of publicity. So tell us about that.
So at the beginning of the pandemic, I remember talking to Dr. Lowe about my concern that people weren't going to get exercise and fresh air. And he said, Patrick, you can encourage anything outdoors. And so we came up at the beginning of the pandemic with Councillor Doug Willans, a backyard garden program. And literally we had 7,500 people in Brampton build their own gardens. It was a national success. And I was thinking to myself, you're not going to do gardens in the middle of winter. What can I do to encourage people to be outdoors, get their exercise, knowing that it's safe? And it hit me, backyard rinks. There's nothing more Canadian than a backyard rink. And so I called up some friends, asked them if they would donate prizes, called up a few alumni that I've got a history with, Wendell Clark and Doug Gilmore, and asked if they would support this. And it's blown up. You know, we've got people literally across the city sending me messages and photos of their backyard rinks. The Brampton Fire has offered to help flood rinks for those that don't have the capacity. I even got some lumber donated to help people who don't have wood. We've got people from the building departments and some counselors who are helping advise on the construction of rinks. It's turned into a lot of fun. And, you know, like I say, we're making lemonade out of lemons. This lockdown is tough on kids and families with our rec centers closed, but we're having a lot of fun with this contest. So if you're in Brampton, you want to have a chance to have NHL alumni and legends play on your backyard rink, you can win hockey tickets and lots of different certificates. I even had my old friend Wayne Gretzky donate a signed Team Canada jersey. So we got some amazing prizes. Just, you know, you have until January 31st to take a photo of your rink and submit it.
Can other cities join, Mayor Brown?
You know, I've been getting emails across the province, actually, people asking, I wish my city had a contest like this, but no, limited to the city of Brampton. And we're going to have a lot of fun with it.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mayor Brown. I'll catch you next week. Have a good weekend.
All the best.
Okay, later.